a 10% deposit, you might be looking at 3%, whereas at 15, you might even be lucky enough to get 1.8. So it's quite a significant drop.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. This video is part of a series of short videos from a conversation I had with a friend of mine, Ganesh, who is a mortgage advisor. The whole conversation essentially addresses various questions that every person just like you and I go through when we begin to think about buying a property. I'll be uploading the full video soon, and you can find it in the playlist up here or in the description down below. So let's jump straight into the conversation where Ganesh is telling me what I need to be aware of when deciding whether to buy or rent a property. Hope you enjoy it, and let me know in the comments below what you think. Also, sorry for the subpar audio quality at the start.
I think the first thing is deposit, because in London, properties are quite expensive, you know. So if you've got a property, you know, a flat, I'd say, I'm not just talking about London actually, sorry, London or Greater London, or like Essex, Chelmsford, etc. You know, if you're talking about a decent flat, a 1 bed or a 2 bed, you're looking at somewhere between 200 to 350. You know, so if you're buying a flat and you don't have a minimum of around 35,000 or at least 5%, then it's just not even worth having that conversation. So usually what happens is someone may get a gift, or they've just been really good and they've saved for like a period of months or whatever, or years or whatever, and they've got to this position. The other part of it is you've got to be settled in your career. You know, the way a mortgage works is it's lending and it's backing you. You know, so if you can't sort of demonstrate and justify why I'm going to give you this money, then they're not going to give it to you. You know, so it's things like, you know, how long have you been in the job? Have you been settled? You know, and this is where this is where a mortgage advisor comes into their own, because there's some lenders that would be good if you just started the job. There's some lenders that are great for contractors. There's some lenders that are good for self-employed. You know, there's just so many different facets, if you know what I mean. But ultimately, as a first-time buyer, if you are consistently earning, you know, X amount of money, and combined with that, you've got a good deposit, then it's a good time to start.
I guess so. One of the things, it might be like an estate agent question, and because you've been in that area as well, you know it as well. So I guess as a first-time buyer, should you be looking at something that's closer to the towns and things like that, where you're probably spending a bit more on the property, but does that mean that the property may go up in value better compared to where you go outside, you go further out, you're spending less money on something that's probably a bit bigger, but then the chances are that it may not go up as much as something more in the town? Is that something that could be, like, is that something to consider?
100%, yeah. I mean, I think everything, again, it comes down to what you need. So one of the tips I always say is, if you're sort of a budding individual, you've got good incomes and you're sort of doing well in your career, try and get the most you can out of what you've got. So, you know, it obviously has to be responsible lending within a reason, but if you can get 5 times income or 4.5 times income or whatever it is, then try and get the right property at that moment in time that's making use of your budget available. And I'm not sidestepping your question, it's just using that budget, then decide what's important to you. So you might be someone who's got a young family, who's got a 3-year-old daughter, and you want to get to a certain school. So for you, it doesn't really matter whether you live near that station or near that town centre. I mean, if you ask my wife, when we had our little one, she wanted to be near the school. You know, it didn't really matter whether we were, like, you know, 5 minutes walk from the pub. If you
had to walk further for the pub, you had to walk further for the station. It doesn't matter what kid gets.
Exactly. So that's like, you know, that. And then another priority could be that you're young, you're single, you want to get into London to go out on nights out, or you need to go in for work or whatever. So then that would be, you know, location specific. If you're looking at it from an investment perspective, 100% speak to the estate agent, because they're the ones that would know the full market trends of what's going up in that area. But I think the most important thing is getting what's appropriate to you. If you look at your home as just an investment, then it's not going to tick all the boxes. You know? Look at investment as an investment. you know, and keep the home separate to what you can do. And my philosophy is this: if you can afford to buy at 300, and you buy at 300 instead of buying at 270, that property is going to grow pretty much on the same length as something. It's going to grow more, than something that's 270. Just as a rule of thumb, you know, which is why I say try and be a bit brave. If you're someone who's a bit risk adverse, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to spend that much, you know, maybe I just want to stick to 3 times income. Just think about it. You know, think about this step that you're about to do could save you from having to make 3 steps.
Yeah. So I guess that's another thing. Like you said, that try and get the 4.5 or 5 times. What is the things that determine what multiple that you can get off your salary?
Yeah, so a lot of it depends on how long you've been in the position. You know, depends on how much that income is. So sometimes if you earn over a certain amount, then the lender is willing to go to even 5.5 times income. You know, but it's a bit like unfair, because you have to earn over a certain amount. And it kind of makes sense though, doesn't it? Because if you're earning, I don't know, £200,000 as a joint income, then you're naturally going to have more disposable income than someone who's earning 30k joint, you know? So it's kind of
it's more safer for them to lend to those people, because they'll probably have more savings and things like that.
Absolutely. Another thing that can determine your multiples is what deposit you put down. So if you put 10%, anything up to 10%, usually it's very difficult to get anything over 4.75. You know, the minute you put 15% down, not only does the rate get a lot better, but you tend to be able to borrow 5 times a lot more frequently from different lenders. So that's another factor. Self-employed, so if you've got only 1 year's accounts, you're restricted as to which lender you could go to. There's only a handful of lenders that you can go to. Whereas if you've got 3 years accounts, then you know you're in a much stronger position. So it's really, to answer your question, it's really down to income. You know, that is the real crux of it. Okay.
So what's the average deposit that people usually need to get in order to buy a property?
Yeah, hard to answer average, but what I try and sort of target is like a minimum of 10%. But ideally, if they can get to 15%, it's a bit of a game changer. So the rates, just to throw some examples, with a 10% deposit, you might be looking at 3%, whereas at 15, you might even be lucky enough to get 1.8. So it's quite a significant drop, which then affects obviously what you're paying monthly and things like that. So that would be I would say out of my cases, first-time buyers, that's really like where we're targeting. That's where most of my customers sit in that bracket. When it comes to remortgaging, it's very different because they would have had it for some time. So usually the property builds a certain amount of equity that they might have bought the property with a 10% deposit. Because it's gone up in value, they've naturally got to an 85%. So, and then obviously every 2 years that they're coming to me, it's going to 80, then 75, then 70, you know.
So then, I guess, as a first-time buyer, when you're looking at wanting to get a mortgage, you want to try and get the highest multiplication and everything off your salary. Obviously, salary is one of the main things. Then we're looking at also your credit rating.
So your outgoings, I mean, it's something I didn't really touch on too much, but outgoings make a big difference because it's all about sort of affordability. So not just your income, but also, say for example, your income is 100,000, but then you've got car finance of a RA on, I don't know, £1,200 a month or something, then that's not a good thing, right? Things like school fees, you know, a lot of people have kids going to private schools, so that could have an effect. Or you just have very large credit cards because you got married very young and, you know, you decided that you really needed chair covers in your wedding.
Oh my God, don't get me started on chair covers. I was like, no one cares. They're going to sit on the chair, whatever.
No, it's not the same without that cover. It's not the same. But yeah, so, you know, it could be like, you know, it could be a number of things, you know, from so that affects what you can borrow, because ultimately if you think about it, you've got this like jar of, I don't know, £2,000 worth of income, let's just say. And if you're putting your credit card, that's like £200 off it because you've got a balance of whatever, £8,000 or whatever. Then you've got car finance, that's another 300. So suddenly the bank is looking at it like, no, you're not earning two grand. You're actually earning 1,500.
Yeah.
So of that 1,500, I'm only going to let you use 60% of that or 40% of that for your mortgage.
Okay.
So that's how it works, you know.
Are we technically not looking at like 4 times, 5 times your salary? You're looking at 4 times, 5 times your available money at the end of the month?
It's hard because, you know, again, this is all done, but this is why I have a job, because there's so many different lenders, and different lenders view things in different ways. You know, some lenders might even ignore liabilities like credit cards, loans, but it all depends on the individual lender's way of working it out.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, not as much as I'd love everyone to come to me, and please do come to me, but speak to a broker, because you'll be amazed. You'll go to the bank, and the bank will say, I can only get you 200,000 because your income is X. You know, I had a customer last week who has he was earning like 50,000 as a basic and then 70,000 as commission, right? But because it wasn't the same on every single payslip, the bank would only give him based on 50 and then took the commission at like 30%. Okay. Whereas I've got a lender, as long as I've got 6 months payslips, I went to a lender that gave 5 times income on the whole lot.
Okay.
So this was literally the difference between the person buying at like 700 and buying at 400.
Thanks, Kana, for a great conversation. I for sure learned a lot having a conversation with Kana. I'm sure you must have learned at least one thing, if not lots more, from this video. Remember, every person's situation is unique. So if you are thinking about buying a new property, regardless of when, as Kana mentioned, any time is always going to be a great time, as TSK Mortgages will be able to help you get your dream home. And also, they can help you plan towards getting there as well. So check them out in the link in the description down below, or head over to Kana's Instagram page at tsk.mortgages to find out more. If you like this video, make sure you check out the bite-sized videos in the playlist down there, and check out Kana at TSK Mortgages here. And while you're at it, go and follow Kana on his Instagram and subscribe to this channel. Smash the like button and comment down below and share with your friends and family. Peace and love to all of you. See you in the next video. Bye.